Okay, we are live. We'll let it breathe just for a moment here. Bring on our dear friends who Zach and I were just talking about, Facebook. And then we're going to get things fired up on this happening Thursday night episode. What's good, everybody? It is the Mile High Huddle podcast, and I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zach, maybe not a fire Thursday. It's kind of been a slow news day relative to this particular Denver Broncos squad. But one thing I wanted to get your take on real quick, and then we'll dive into some other topics in the chat. I see some supers already stacked up. David, Sambam, is the Broncos, of course, cut bait with rush linebacker Jacob Martin. But you had a story for us today at milehighhuddle.com that has Sean Payton maybe kind of keeping the door open. What's the skinny on that?
Yeah, basically, he said things are in flux after cutting Jacob Martin, and it's pretty much a numbers game because they had to sign so many undrafted rookies and they just couldn't fit everyone on the 90-man roster. But what he didn't say was it was a financially driven move, obviously, because they saved $3.5 million against the salary cap, leaving only $1 million in dead money behind. So if he wants to come back on a reduced salary, maybe more toward the veteran minimum, I think that's fine for what he is. That's a role player, a number 4 outside linebacker. But at $3.8 million, you could do a lot with that, and they weren't going to allocate that to Jacob Martin wisely.
That was indeed the bottom line. When the offseason opened, you and I were just waiting for that domino to fall, and we were surprised it took as long as it did. And I'm just trying to figure out how that dude, I mean, if you look at his jacket, his production, relative resume, how he ended up making the kind of money he was making, which is not like, obviously top of the market or anything, but for a depth rush linebacker, I know I get it. He came over from the Jets in that trade and everything, but he was obviously overpaid, Zach, relative to the value and impact he was providing the Denver Broncos. So no harm, no foul. David McElrath jumped in early before we even went live with the super chat. Thank you. He's known as Papa Bear. Thank you, big dog. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Chad, Zach, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Scott's not with us tonight. Scott had some things cooking, so FYI. I'm sure he appreciates it, though. The middle linebacker, Drew Sanders, is my favorite draft pick. Hashtag buck 'em with a B, baby. MHH for life, Denver Broncos for life. Yeah, Zach and I were just remarking on that. When we publish an article, for example, Zach and I pay close attention to how those articles are doing, how many people are reading them, page views, where the page views are coming from. I mean, this is our business, okay? One thing we have noticed, Drew Sanders gets a lot of fan scrutiny. Like we could post, let's say today, how many picks were there? 5. All right. Let's say every 2 hours we posted an article today, one on Denzel Mims, one on Marvin Mims, one on Drew Sanders, one on Riley Moss, one on JL Skinner, and then one on Alex Forsyth. The Drew Sanders would do, Zach, 5x, if not more, clicks than any of those other guys, even the highest drafted guy who happens to be a blingy kind of position, wide receiver in Mims. So, yeah. And then, of course, Sanders, Zach, backs it up with an impressive first impression at rookie minicamp. So, got to be excited about Drew Sanders.
Yeah, y'all love some Drew Sanders, and we definitely appreciate each and every one of you reading the articles about Drew. The one that we're talking about was him signing his rookie contract, which was 4 years and what was it, $4 million, something like that. It was a negligible amount for what he can bring to the table. And I wrote up the article. I included the Sean Payton quote in that after rookie minicamp when they just lauded his productivity. The fact that he can play outside linebacker, he can play off-ball linebacker. He won a national title at Alabama. He's a great special teamer. They're going to get their money's worth out of him figuratively and literally. And we'll provide more of that content if y'all want to read it for sure.
I just have a feeling, Zach, we're going to be writing a lot of articles about that dude, whether fans were into him or not, just because I think he's got a little it factor. And I'm going to explain a little bit more of that here in just a minute. But Sam Bam, I wanted to give you some props and some thank you, big dog, jumping in with the super chat. Also, like David, before we even went live, we really appreciate you. He's saying, good evening to everybody. 16 Thursdays to go, he says, until footy ball. Go Broncos. Yes, indeed. We're counting down the the seconds, man. Can't wait.
Just to tack on, and obviously, Sam, I agree with you. I mean, the offseason, it used to be good for business, but we definitely prefer watching football, and this Broncos season should be special. But I think going back to the Sanders bit for a second, Chad, what you were going to remark on, I don't want to steal your thunder. Broncos country, like myself and yourself, has been yearning for an inside linebacker that can actually cover, that can make plays against the pass. And that's exactly what Sanders did on day one of rookie minicamp, housing a pick six of Ben DiNucci. So I understand the excitement, and it's only a matter of time, I feel, before Sanders is in the starting lineup.
Just some early hellos. Kevin Opethian was in the chat before we went live. The Duchess is with us with a super. We're going to grab her next. But we always gloss over this, I think, too often. Dylan is so diligent in making sure to get in the chat, one of the first, if not the first, and throw this up. And we appreciate you, big dog. By the way, Dylan has posted 2 really good articles this week. You guys should go read them, predicting the stat leaders for the Broncos in 2023 in the 3 different categories. I'm going to drop it in the side
chat so y'all can read it.
Yeah, check it out. But anyway, he's just reminding everybody, hit the like button. Zach, we used to do this. If those of you who are OGs that have been with us a long time since we started doing our podcast as a live stream, we would have an opening salvo type segment, topic, whatever the title of the particular episode was. We'd talk for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then we would get, quote, into our matters of business, like right away. Mm-hmm. And we'd be pounding the table, trying to get everybody to like the videos and share it and all this stuff, reminding you. And then we kind of got away from that. But the reason we would do it and include it so early in our show, guys, is because it really is so important. So if you're in the chat, the way we see it, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Least you can do, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And thank you for that reminder, Dylan. Zach, let's jump to the Duchess, who, of course, needs no introduction from us. She is thebomb.com. Michaela Parker, thank you, my friend. It's great to see you. She says, good evening, Bronco priests. I am still thinking Cortland Sutton will get traded during or right after training camp. Thoughts? Zach, do you still think it's, obviously it's possible, but do you feel in any way that it's probable that Sutton still gets moved?
Well, funny enough, Michaela, I actually read something from Albert Breer of SI National where he had a little tidbit about the Broncos receivers that no one bid on their asking price. That was a second-round pick for Cortland Sutton and a first-round pick for Jerry Jeudy. But what Breer said is, if you call the Broncos, they might not hang up on you. So he left open the possibility that a deal could be made. But if George Payton holds firm to that demand of a second-round pick, I don't see any team at this stage, in mid-May, giving up a premium second-round pick for someone like Cortland Sutton. Maybe if Sutton reverts back to that pre-injury form in the first half of the season, he might get moved during the trade deadline. I don't see any activity with the receivers before then, though.
I just have a feeling that at this stage, oh man, it's doing the lag, dang it. Bear with us, those that are watching. But I just have a feeling at this stage, Zach, that the Broncos they value Sutton more on the roster than what they can get for him at this stage.
Rightfully so.
This is really his, I probably shouldn't be too hyperbolic and call it his last hurrah, but after making a Pro Bowl in 2018, then he gets injured, or 2019, pardon me. Then he gets injured, 2 kind of forgettable years in his rebound from that ACL. But along the way, Zach, he gets a massive upgrade. People can say what they want about Russell Wilson, but he was a massive upgrade over any quarterback that was throwing Cortland Sutton passes in days of yore. And now, Zach, he gets the brainchild, right? He gets the offensive mastermind in Sean Payton. So if this isn't the platform for which Cortland Sutton can launch and re-blossom and kind of remind the NFL who he is, then he's not who we thought he was. That Cortland Sutton is no longer with us as of the ACL tear week 2, 2020 season. So I am still cautiously optimistic, Zach, that we'll see that form of Cortland Sutton. I think the Broncos are kind of banking on that right now. Remember, last thing, the Sean Payton offense traditionally has favored that possession X receiver very, very well, from the Marcus Colstons of way back, at the early, let's say, first half of the Payton Drew Brees era in New Orleans, to Michael Thomas, who they call the slant god. So I like Sutton's outlook, and I think the Broncos will hold on to him.
I think you hit on something important there. For a second round pick, I would trade Cortland Sutton. I'm just being realistic. That's good value for what he is at this stage of his career post injury. But I feel like the Broncos maybe got at most like a 4th round pick. And at that point, he's way more valuable, like you said, Chad, on the roster than off the roster for a measly 4th rounder. The thing is, though, it's a tricky situation because, yes, it's a very, pass happy offense under Sean Payton historically with the receivers that you mentioned. But it seems like this year in Denver, Payton's offense is aligning to be run first. Samaje Perine, Javonte Williams to build off that and use play action. And then the second part of that is they have so many receivers and only so many passes and balls to go around. He's competing for snaps with another possession god and Tim Patrick, as far as I'm concerned. You also have Jerry Jeudy in there as the number 1 wide receiver. And also now the addition of Marvin Mims. You have the KJ Hamler still on the roster technically. Montrell Washington, Marquez Callaway. It's a very crowded room. And we know going forward, they can't keep everyone. One of these big 3 will be gone at some point in the future. I just don't think that future is immediate.
Well said. Michaela said she's buying a new car, and I'm looking in the chat to see if you have made a decision on what it's going to be, but you're going to have to tell us what that is. And by the way, being the big baller that she is, Zach, she's paying cash. She's paying straight cash for that. Shout out to Greg. What's up, big dog, on Facebook. Shout out to Howie in the house. He said, what's up, fellas? The Williams jersey is in and looking fire. Thanks again. Yeah, bro, send us in that selfie, and we'll put you on MHH Instagram. It'll be dope. Glad it got to you. Safe and sound. Legendary, mystical figure in MHH lore, Naj Altaf in the house. Thank you, bro. So generous of you. He's saying, hey, brothers, I feel like Sean Payton focused this offseason on sending psychological messages. Jarrett Stidham to start if Russ struggles, trying to trade all the receivers, etc. I think this strategy, along with solid game planning, will work. He is weaned in the Bill Parcells School of Football Psychology, so he knows a thing or two about that. And let's face it, when it comes to extracting, Zach, the pinnacle of human performance, doesn't matter what realm it is in football, accounting, doesn't matter. If you manage to inject some competitive anxiety along with whatever that individual's own kind of motivational equation is, like Zach and I, for example, we're guys who are probably more motivated when we get out of bed every day. It's for hope of gain, okay, as opposed to getting out of bed and going to work and getting things done because we're afraid to lose our job, etc. Right? So depending on what that equation or ratio is for each guy, Zach, a little competitive anxiety can do wonders, even for a $250 million quarterback that's a veteran like Russ Wilson.
Yeah, I feel like every genius coach is a little passive aggressive to an extent. Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, you have to have that edge and make players a little uncomfortable and not be everyone's best pal like Nathaniel Hackett was last year. I just want to push back on the Stidham to start if Russ struggles. It would take a monumental Russ downfall, even worse than last year, I think, for Sean Payton to pull him, even though he handpicked Jarrett Stidham. All their eggs, their competitive eggs, they know if they want to go back to the playoffs and be a relevant team again, Russell Wilson is the best quarterback to get them there. That's why they hired Sean Payton. They didn't hire Sean Payton just to start Jarrett Stidham or sign Stidham. If Russ gets hurt, I feel, God forbid, decent with Stidham stepping in and holding down the fort better than a Josh Johnson or a Brett Rippon. But I think, contrary to fan outlook and conjecture, Russ is going to have a bigger leash than most people realize.
Agreed. Notch, love you, big dog. You're going, right? October 22nd. I detected perhaps a slight tone thread of disappointment that it's not in September. So from you. So I'm hoping, bro, we're hoping you're going to be able to make October 22nd for the meet and greet, big dog. It wouldn't be the same without you. So Mike Reno, brother, thank you for the stars and the support and the question and the topic. He's saying 100%, Zach, agree with Zach. I think Drew Sanders is just what the doctor ordered at middle linebacker for this team. And Zach, and thank you, Mike, what makes Drew Sanders so intriguing is not just like you think about Josie Jewell and leader of men type guy, field general. No one's going to probably out prepare Josie Jewell. Run fit guy, give it his all trying to cover, but no one's going to mistake him for Danny Trevathan circa 2015. And no one's going to mistake him for, Micah Parsons. Meanwhile, Drew Sanders has the potential to kind of be all those guys in one. And it's pretty dang exciting. And if you listen to him talk, he's been in some big baller schools. Like he went to Alabama, 5-star recruit as kind of more of a defensive end / rush linebacker when he came out of high school in Texas. Then he goes to, stays in the SEC, but goes to Arkansas. So it's not like he's completely unaccustomed, Zach, to having a microphone and a camera stuck in his face, but he is a little bit reserved. His question, when a question is posed to him, you're not going to get more than 3 lines of reply at most. It's usually going to be 1, 2, next question. And it's kind of said a little bit shyly, a little bit reserved. Like he reminds me of like when I talked to Brett Rippon at the Combine a few years ago, like quiet confidence, reserved, but just in the case of Drew Sanders, that complete animal when he's out on the field.
Yeah, he's a man of few words, and he won't make for a great story, but I don't care about that. If he can cover tight ends and help the Broncos in pass coverage on third downs, I am all for it. And, you mentioned Danny Trevathan as the last great Broncos inside linebacker that can be a two-way player in terms of helping against the run in the pass. Even Brandon Marshall, going back just a few years ago, he was more athletic than what he wasn't for long. He went downhill fast, but better than Josie Jewell, better than Alex Singleton in coverage. They desperately needed someone like Drew Sanders to defend that area of the field. And why I said that about Broncos country, why I had that feeling, even today, randomly, someone replied to me on Twitter and knocked George Payton for not re-signing Kenny Young. Remember him? We were all on the Kenny Young bandwagon a few years ago because he provided that athleticism. He provided that coverage ability. So Broncos country is yearning for that. And I think the wait is over with Drew Sanders.
Mike, it's so great to see you, buddy. Thank you for the stars. And obviously a lot of Denver Nugget fans in the room saying go Nuggets, like Ed. Good to see you, big dog. And he's reminding everybody, go Nuggets. Nuggets up 1 in the Western Conference Finals. Got a chance to send LeBron James and company home, advance to the NBA Finals, which would be really great for the city. Zach, we got Phil McLaughlin jumping in down in Tucson. Great to see you, big dog. He's saying, good evening. I read that secondary coach Christian Parker has been selected for the NFL's Coach Accelerator, program. I have no idea what that means. Well, if you want, we can get into what it is a little bit. I'll pull it up. But Zach, as I'm pulling up some of the nitty-gritty details of what this program is, I want to just remind everybody that this is only the second year in which the program has existed. And the first coach that was sent to this was Ejiro Evero. And one of the priorities is like rising coaching talent, diverse coaching talent. So here is what the program is supposed to do for these coaches, Phil, for what it's worth. Quote, this is from the press release. The program aims to increase exposure between owners, executives, and diverse coaching talent, providing ample opportunity to develop and build upon their relationships. So that's, it doesn't exactly answer the question with authority, like what exactly are they doing, but it's a networking opportunity and a grooming opportunity of sorts. And if you look at it, Zach, from its inception year, its inaugural year last year, what happened for Ejiro Evero? Well, he came out of that, happened to make some hay, did really well coordinating a Broncos defense, where he was out kicking his coverage. And what happened? He was garnering interest as a viable head coaching candidate from multiple teams around the league. Ended up, teams being a little skeptical that he was quite ready for that, but that's what possibly could await Christian Parker, down the road.
I believe Evero interviewed for every head coaching opening during the offseason, and he ended up in Carolina. I am really interested to watch what he's going to do with the Panthers to see if he's the real deal, or maybe last year he just got lucky in Denver. I like him a lot. I wish the Broncos could have kept him way more so than Vance Joseph, but Christian Parker, you're right. It's basically a way to get lesser known assistant coaches out in the spotlight and give them an opportunity to meet higher ups and advance their careers. Christian Parker is the truth. He will be a defensive coordinator at minimum by next year. I just hope that job is in Denver, preferably replacing VJ, though we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Ejiro Evero proved to be very smart and capable. You know, when we talk about hashtag extreme competency, that's why it would have been great for him to stick around. But there's also an element to it, Zach, where it's like, you know, he's coming off still the vestiges of the Fangio thing and Fangio's defense. He couldn't get anything else going for him in Denver, but the defense, the bones of that were still there from a personnel perspective. And so I want to see how he does outside of the immediate kind of cocoon or manger of Vic Fangio's like immediate aftermath or whatever. By the way, Michaela's settling the issue. She's getting a Honda HRV hybrid touring. Dope. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be awesome. You'll have to send us in pics. Naj confirming he will be at the meet and greet October 22nd. That's week 7 versus the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be dope. Miguel, by the way, got his jersey. He's rocking it. If you guys are following MHH on Instagram, then you've already seen him rocking his jersey. But since you're with us, I'll show you. Since he was dutiful and quickly sent in his selfie in gratitude for and confirmation that he got it. But his your boy, and he got one of those. Salute to service ones or whatever, where it's Justin Simmons, but it's black, so it looks dope. Anyway, love it, dude. Glad it got to you A-OK, and appreciate your support, Miguel. And thank you for the stars tonight and all that you do. So great to see you, big dog. But Zach, on the subject of, I want to circle back real quick on the subject of, first of all, Marvin Mims talking about Drew Sanders. And I got to tell you, that's a smart kid. If you listen to Marvin Mims, that dude is, I think he's going to be special because we already know he's got the physical gifts. He's got the talent, the twitch, the explosiveness. He's got the speed, and he seems to be a very humble, head on his shoulders type of kid and smart. But he has a history with Drew Sanders. In case you guys didn't know this, they battled it out. Was it his senior year? I think both of them, I want to say. Anyway, in a high-stakes high school football game in Texas, they went against each other. And so he was asked after practice on Saturday, Zach, Mims, hey, so now that you ended up on the same NFL roster as Drew Sanders, do you get any of that old high school rivalry stuff going, doing any trash talking? And also, your thoughts on Drew Sanders. And this is what Mims said, quote, I can't talk any trash on the way that game went. And he kind of laughed about it. And then he said, Drew is an unreal athlete. He's looked like that since senior year in high school. I mean, the dude is unbelievable. But just to come here, it's such a small world. Both of us getting drafted here. It's weird how things worked out, close quote. And then, Zach, you went on to also say just kind of the type of plays that Sanders is capable of making and what he's seen him make both back in the day and then, of course, at rookie minicamp. He said, quote, this is Mims again. I think whenever we played them, this was back in high school, he was playing D-end, tip the ball, pick it, 6, then they call it back. I was just like, that's nothing new to me, honestly, seeing him do stuff like that, close quote. So using a couple of interesting superlatives to describe Drew Sanders, a completely unproven rookie relative to the NFL. Zach, your thoughts? Unreal and unbelievable.
I'm actually really impressed after rookie minicamp hearing Marvin Mims talk. He's very articulate. He's sounds like a 5th year, 6th year pro already, and you wouldn't know he's a rookie. He had, similarly nice things to say about Riley Moss because they matched up in minicamp as well. It's good to hear. It's a nice affirmation that Drew Sanders is going to be probably the Broncos' long-term fixture at inside linebacker. And if they do match up, and if VJ decides to put Sanders on Mims in coverage as practice, that's only going to make Sanders a better player and vice versa. It's going to, I hate to use the expression because it's so cliche, but iron will sharpen iron in this instance.
George, Thank you, brother. Great to see you in the chat. He's saying thanks for being here for all of us that aren't close to Denver. Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Thanks, guys. Hey, man, we'll keep showing up as long as you do, George. Appreciate you, big dog. But Zach, you're right. It's really fun listening to Mims talk. You still get that kind of rookie apprehensiveness where they don't want to say too much. They kind of want to be seen, not heard, and just they're still caught up in the whirlwind of their dream coming to reality and kind of rolling with the punches. But Zach, he was asked also, Mims, about Riley Moss as you talking about the matchups and da 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 da. This was interesting from Mims on. Wrong one. I got to find this other article. Hold on. Let me pull it up. 1 second. This is the Broncos' top draft pick, Marvin Mims, being asked about third-round rookie corner Riley Moss out of Iowa. Here's what he said. If I can find the dang thing, I'm sorry. That's not it. That's not it. Here we go. So he was asked, hey, what's it been like, did you know Riley Moss? What's it been like hanging with him, going against him a little bit in practice, etc. Mims, quote, that's a matchup I've been looking forward to since I got to camp. That's probably one of the first guys I talked to when I got here, Riley. Great dude, obviously. Love him. We've known each other for just 2 days, but just a great guy. Easy to have conversations with, and this is where it gets interesting. And out there, he's going to make sure you feel him on the field. Even in walkthrough, he's coming up and tapping me and all that stuff, so it's great to have him out there, close quote. So I love that. Riley Moss is going to make sure you feel him out on the grass.
Yeah, and Michaela's asking about Marvin Mims' jersey number. He will be number 83. That's the number he was assigned. And someone else said what I was going to say, don't rush out and buy a jersey yet because those numbers are subject to change until week 1. So just keep that in mind. I also really like, while we're on the subject, what Riley Moss had to say in his post-practice interview as well. The fact that, again, it was brought up that he's one of the few white corners to ever play in the NFL, and he sarcastically said, I'm the only one, really? He played it off like he didn't know.
Total deadpan. I loved it.
Love it, yeah. And he also said something I've been saying, if you can do it, you can do it. It doesn't really matter what color you are. So this draft class, it wasn't really ballyhooed that much because the Broncos didn't have many picks. They didn't have a first-round pick. But I think it will go down when it's all said and done as a rock-solid A from George Payton.
Yeah, he's a guy that always has a little bit of a glint in his eye, mischievous, cocky. I'm sure he's a little bit cocky out there on the grass. He strikes me, Riley Moss, is the type of guy that likes to talk, likes to chatter a little bit out there.
The dog.
Yeah, definitely kind of a dog dude. And look, not afraid to mix it up. One of the things that separated him in the eyes of the Broncos, and anyone who watches any of his film at Iowa, you see this, is you've got the speed and the athleticism to hang as a corner. Remember, Sean Payton said, arguably, cornerback, when it comes to athleticism, is the one that demands the most athleticism of any position. And Riley Moss checks those boxes, but he's not afraid to mix it up, and he realizes how important that is to really being a complete player. And what he said, quote, you can't be scared. You have to go and hit him in the mouth, close quote. And by the way, too, Zach, he's looking forward to Patrick Surtain being in the building so he can jump in his hip pocket and follow him around everywhere. But with the exception of Drew Sanders, who did receive texts from Alex Singleton and Josie Jewell the night he was drafted by the Broncos, none of the other two premium round picks, Mims or Moss, have heard from anyone from their respective position groups quite yet, Zach.
I have heard a lot of Greg Williams in that quote that you just said about punching the other team in the mouth. I love it because the Broncos haven't had that tenacity since Wade Phillips, if we're being honest, and they need more of those dogs. They need more of those Aqib Talibs out there, the TJ Wards out there, so you're scared as an offense to take on the Broncos defense. I think slowly but surely Sean Payton will have him there.
And yes, Naj, telling everybody, you can make it out to a meet and greet. It's a memorable experience, and it's so fun. Speaking for myself, it's so cool to, in a lot of cases, we see people's faces in their profile pic or whatever, but to really meet people in person who you've had so many interactions with over the internet, in the chat, in these online digital communities, which is what MHH is. And it's really, really cool. So, Naj, can't wait to see you there, bro. Sam Bam with a second super chat tonight. Really appreciate you, Sam, helping us keep the lights on here at MHH, saying Avalanche 2022 champs, the Nuggets, perhaps 2023 champs, would like to see it since they've never won a championship. True. And the Broncos are the 2024 champs. Does that work? Sorry, Rockies fans, your future is bleak. Yeah, it's still not looking so good for the Rockies, but wouldn't that be something, Zach, if you got that trifecta in consecutive years, Avalanche, Nuggets, Broncos, winning it all? I mean, that would be so rad for Denver.
Yeah, I'm not a huge basketball guy, for transparency, but I feel like the NBA really wants a Lakers-Celtics final, and if the Nuggets can play the villain here or the underdog, I am all for it. Make Denver the city of champions again.
Sam, great to see you, bro. Phil, and then, well, I'm gonna star this one and then come back. I want to grab Kenny. Don't want to make the super chat superstars wait. Kenny, great to see you tonight, bro. Thank you for that super chat. Means a lot to us, especially on a sleepy Thursday. Seriously, really helpful. Says, good evening, fellas. Glad to catch the show live. Thanks for the great content. I love the pick of Marvin Mims, but do you guys think there is any truth to the rumor of KJ Hamler not making the roster because of the pick, the Mims pick? It definitely creates pressure and puts pressure on KJ. And you could look at it, Zach, I think one of two ways. And by the way, Doug, Raquel, great to see you, bro. Thank you for the stars and the support, big dog. But you could look at it one of two ways. You could look at it as the fact that KJ is injured and has a timetable, which at the time of his injury, Zach, if I recall, I think you had the write-up for us, so correct me if I'm wrong, but 5-month recovery, I want to say, on the pec or whatever. So you could either look at it as that the fact that he's injured, that kind of eliminates whatever pressure Mims would be putting on him because he's injured. But I look at it the other way, which is even if he was healthy, that's pressure. You add to it that you can't do anything about it while he's out there on the grass, here once they start doing the mini camps and everything, and then you get into training camp, getting better, forging bonds, getting in with the coaches, getting in with the quarterback, and you're eating your heart out. It's pressure. It sucks. And KJ Hamler, Zach, for what it's worth, man, what a great story, great kid, great talent, but can't stay healthy. And the Broncos, if they earmark a roster spot for him, every year they've done that, they've been burned. He can't stay on the field. So it wouldn't shock me if they ended up kind of unceremoniously injured him or something before you even saw him again on the grass. But hopefully he gets one last chance, since it is a contract year. Is it? Yeah. Contract year for him to really show that he can stay healthy. Because if he stays healthy, he makes an impact.
For sure. And I've been a KJ Hamler fan since he was drafted. I became more of a fan when he opened up about what he overcame, not just the dislocated hip and torn knee ligament, but also the loss of his grandmother and just the emotion he showed last year. Was it in him after the Colts lost? Didn't he slam his helmet down in pure frustration? Was that KJ Hamler?
Yeah, that overtime where Russ missed him.
He just wants to win. He wants to play. He wants to help the team out, but his body is betraying him, unfortunately. And if under Sean Payton, the one thing I've learned so far, he's mentioned this word quite a few times, durability. If you can stay durable, it doesn't really matter how good you are, but if you can show up every week and punch in and be a work pail type player for Sean Payton, he will value you. And I feel like even all the talent in the world, theoretically, for KJ Hamler, it doesn't matter if you're not on the field. And it's been one thing after another after another. If he even makes the team this year, which is 50-50 at best, anything you get out of him will be a bonus. The Marvin Mims pick was a direct indictment on KJ Hamler. No coincidence there.
Mike, yes. Everyone the Broncos drafted is under contract. Drew Sanders was the holdout. That's the wrong word. He was the last one signed. It did kind of feel like there was something there that, why did it take so long to get what was he, pick 67 overall signed. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Water under the bridge. And yes, very soon here, Mike, they're going to be integrating with the vets, and it's going to be dope. Zachary Peterson, great to see you. Thank you for the super chat, big dog.
Great name.
He's saying, I'm hoping to move to Denver during the season. Denver Broncos for life. That's awesome, bro. Get you closer to the action. Absolutely. Keith Brugman, great to see you, bro. Thank you for the stars. And of course, you always bring great insight. Always, when you do ask a question, interesting topics. He's saying here, throw Jerry Jeudy out of the mix. Who do you see from the 2020 draft remaining on this roster beyond 2023? Let's see. Hamler, Jeudy.
I'm pulling it up, don't worry.
Cushenberry.
No, I'm going to forget someone. Ajim, Alberto, Sternad, Netani Moody's gone, Tyree Cleveland's gone, and Derek Tusk is gone.
I mean, there's a chance Albert Okwuegbunam could be re-signed. There's a chance. But I don't really – there's a chance, too, Cush could – like, if Cush plays well, you know, the best case scenario for a player that's coming from where Cush is coming from, Zach, is, again, seen, not heard from type thing, where you're not hearing his name. He's not being singled out in plays where a defensive tackle, you know, broke through and sacked Russ or tackled a running back for a loss because of Cush not being able to hold up. If he manages to have just like a solid average NFL starter season at center, I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos offered him an in-season extension and brought him back. So that would probably be my answer, is throwing Jeudy out of the mix. Who could I see remaining beyond 2023 the most? It would be Cush, but don't sleep on Alberto, and don't completely eliminate the possibility of KJ.
Swear to God, 2 nights ago, I had a dream that Alberto was tight end 1 and absolutely wrecking fools in a game. And then I woke up and I realized it was just a dream, and Greg Dulcich is tight end 1. I don't know. It seems like we've barely heard of Alberto since he was in Vic Fangio's doghouse. And after you sign Chris Manhertz, you acquire Adam Troutman, where does Alberto fit in that pecking order? If you want a pass catcher, you have Dulcich. Sternad, the Broncos' top 4 inside linebackers are set as far as I'm concerned, with Jewel, Singleton, Sanders, and Jonas Griffith. You don't really need to carry Sternad, so I'll go with you there and say Cushenberry by far has the best odds.
The GLP in the house with a very generous super chat as well, helping to keep us going. Really appreciate that, Gary. Saying, hey, what's up to Chad and Zach? I plan on going to the meet and greet if I can catch a ride. Go Broncos, #Buckham. Well, that would be awesome, dude. It sure as heck was fun to hang out with you this last fall. So we will be looking forward to that. Let us know. And we hope to see you there, big dog. Also, I see Patrick, who's a great supporter of the show. Aloha Priest, I just received a Patrick salute to the troops jersey. Tim Patrick, I'm assuming, from a friend.
Yep.
Looking forward to sporting that one on game days. Very dope. Very dope. And then Zach Harold, who is often in our chat, wanted to grab this. He's got a question that was interesting. Do you think the hype on Drew Sanders is too much considering how high he was picked? Is it because he was projected a first rounder? That is a big part of it, all right, was his perceived draft stock. But he fell. He ended up tumbling all the way to pick 67, so barely out of the second round, okay? But this is a guy who multiple leading draft nicks, like NFL.com guy, what's his name, Chad Reuter, Matt Miller, others. He was, for most of the credible national draft talking heads, all right? And then you guys should know at this point how most of the MHH draft guys feel about him. But taking it to the national level, they all viewed him, by and large, as the best linebacker in the class, many of whom had him projected as a top 32 pick, meaning first round. But he slipped out of it, ended up landing in Denver at pick 67. And one thing to remember why he's getting hype, Zach, is it's not just the fact that he was a perceived first rounder that fell, but this is a dude that, as an off-ball linebacker, notched nearly double-digit sacks last year, 9.5 sacks. So he's got a little juice to him. Like, you're getting, in one player, you're getting multiple weapons, so to speak. And at this stage, I think he's a ball of clay that Vance Joseph will be commissioned to figuring out how to shape and get the most out of. But I mean, if we're boiling it down, the answer is the reason he's getting that hype is because, yes, he was perceived as a first-round guy that fell. But is it too much? That was one of the questions, Zach. Is the hype too much for Drew Sanders?
Well, you're right. Both of you are right in the fact that he could have been a first rounder, even a second rounder. That was his draft projection somewhere in the first or second rounds. So getting him at 67 was a steal. And I believe it was NFL.com's Lance Zierlein that compared him to Tremaine Edmonds, who I'm pretty sure was a first round pick. So there's that. But I don't think there's that much hype yet. And maybe that's my perception of it. But even when he made the pick, Sean Payton said it was a good play by Drew. Nobody's crowning him. Nobody's calling him Patrick Willis or Brian Urlacher or a generational inside linebacker. He's a rookie who the Broncos got at a really good draft spot that fills a tremendous area of need that has long killed the team. If he can just know his role for this season, which is backup inside linebacker and core special teamer, there's not going to be too much hype for him to deal with. I think he'll be able to do his job just fine.
Plus, there is a difference between scrutiny and excitement and hype. Hype is kind of tied, not kind of, hype is tied to some sort of prediction, usually an expectation. And I think maybe there is some expectation already for Drew Sanders, but let's face it, he doesn't hit a roster as a rookie landing in Denver where there's an easy path to starting for him at his position that the Broncos plan to play him. He's got two entrenched guys, both of whom have garnered second contracts with the team. So I just think he's a guy that fans have gotten really excited about, and for good reason. Because, you know, he's going to kind of get his beak wet this year as a rookie. We'll see how much of a role or how much, let's just say, the Broncos end up needing to turn to him. But following this year, Josie Jewell becomes a free agent. Bada bing, bada bang. He steps in, starter next to Alex Singleton. Life goes on. I think that's basically what the plan is for the Broncos, unfortunately for Josie Jewell.
And Singleton will be in a contract year next year as well. I'm pretty sure he signed a 2-year. Oh, is it 3-year? Okay. Well, there's going to be one open spot, and Drew Sanders should fill that. The only concern I have doesn't lie with him. It lies with the person you mentioned, VJ, because in Arizona, he had a tremendous ball of clay in Isaiah Simmons, former first-round pick inside linebacker, and VJ stubbornly, week after week after week, forced him to play that off-ball position and didn't move him around where he can generate more activity. That's the only concern. If you use Drew Sanders correctly, you can play him outside, play him inside, a lot like Baron Browning. He's going to be a core special teamer. You'll be fine. And eventually you can work him into that starting role. That's the other good thing. He's not going to have the pressure of being a day one starter. He can learn behind two entrenched veterans from the opening whistle.
And both those guys already showed some veteran savvy by reaching out to him and at least texting him the night he was drafted, welcoming him to the team, so to speak. But guys, we're closing in on 45 minutes, so we're about out of time. If you have any burning topics, questions you need to get in, whatever, you need to exercise some demons, get it off your chest. Now's the time, because remember, we are your football priests. We're here 3 nights a week to provide you the absolution and answers to your burning Broncos questions. And sometimes it's getting the exercising the demons and unburdening your soul. Like Timmy Shields here. What's up, big dog? Great to see you. Appreciate the super. He's saying, you guys rock. Thanks for the awesome content. By the way, Bridge the Gap is awesome. I was a 90s punk rock skater. That's dope, dude. Me too. I really appreciate that, Timmy. Really do. And the super chat means a lot, especially this time of year. Traffic slows down. This is the kind of stuff that helps keep us going, and couldn't do it without you guys. So, Timmy, thank you. And on the subject of Bridge the Gap, a lot of people have reached out after that first night when we unveiled the October 22nd, wanting Bridge the Gap to play. And I just want the Saturday night before the game. And while it has not been eliminated as a possibility, as far as expectations, I just want you guys to know it's not probable. In fact, it'll take a lot of overcoming of obstacles to make that happen. And one of the reasons why is if we were to do that, there's a lot of moving parts, people coming from out of town, different things. And it's one more thing that would be added that I would worry about taking focus off the priority for this event, which is the meet and greet. So we'll see what happens. But Timmy, keep listening to Bridge the Gap on your preferred streaming service. Really appreciate you, big dog. Zach from Keith, Broncos country wanted Latavius Murray. Looks like they got Jacques Patrick. Does Patrick fill that hole, so to speak?
He's built the same. They're both really big, bruising running backs. I also read that they could deploy him in like a fullback hybrid type role, even though the Broncos signed Michael Burton to fill that spot. But yeah, as a backup behind, I'm assuming Javonte is going to be out for 4 weeks or so on PUP to start the season. I'm not holding out hope he's going to be ready by week 1. So in that case, Samaje Perine becomes RB1. Tony Jones, free agent pickup from New Orleans, he becomes RB2. And then there's a wide open battle between like 4 or 5 different running backs for RB3. And there's a reason why they signed Jacques Patrick out of the XFL. He was the leading receiver and second leading rusher among all running backs. He can fill that Sean Payton need on offense. And in a Latavius Murray depth role, I think it could suffice.
Mike's making his prediction. Drew Sanders will have the biggest impact for the Broncos, meaning I'm sure the rookie class. And thank you, Mike. As always, big dog, we appreciate your support. It means the world to us. Zach, Todd wants to know, Todd Ostendorf in the chat just about every single night. Love you. Thank you, Todd. He wants to know, after the draft, what position improved the most this offseason? So when you account for, I guess, everything that happened in free agency and the draft, now that those 2 big watershed events are in the books for the most part, what's your answer?
I mean, obviously, offensive line, just by signing Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers, that's a big one. I feel like wide receiver is another group, Chad, because you didn't trade Cortland Sutton, you didn't trade Jerry Jeudy, and you added Marvin Mims to that unit. That's a very talented lot of receivers. And then the secondary. You already had Patrick Surtain, superstar. You have Justin Simmons, all-pro. You have Damari Mathis, who I feel is going to be a really good number 2. You add Riley Moss into that. You add JL Skinner into that. You're bringing back Caden Stearns. I think those are the 3 obvious areas where they've improved the most.
Miguel, no worries, big dog. At a school function, he says, for my little Broncos fan, missed the pod. Hope y'all had a great day. Well, you better rewind it, dog, because we gave you some big props and flexed your selfie in your new jersey. So you better check that out, big dog. And looky here, David's saying, who lives in the same town as Gary, he's saying, yo, GLP, I'm trying to go and you'll have a ride. So
road trip time.
We could see 2 legends in the flesh, which would be awesome. Mike, you got to remember, we don't have our producer in the room. It's a little bit harder for us to manage the chat when we're talking and trying to read all the comments. So sorry if we missed anything, but we love you, big dog. Appreciate you. Brent P in the house with a very generous top rope super chat at dang near the 11th hour. Wow. Means a lot. Thank you, Brent. Coming on strong like Donkey Kong. We love it. He's saying, just wanted to send some thanks for a great show. Going to try to come to the meet and greet from California. Dope. See, Broncos country, not a geographic location. It's a state of being. It's worldwide, baby. It's wherever you are. And Brent's in California is at.
We would love to have you there, Brent. It's a really fun time just getting to shake everybody's hand, and thank y'all face to face for all the support that you showed us. And Brent, you're on that list as well. If you can make it, we would love to have you.
Seriously though, Brent, you're climbing the super chat rankings in real time. Would not surprise me if by the end of this year you've made it onto the MHH Mount Rushmore. So thank you, big dog. Keith saying, Chad has bridged the gap we can support outside of MHH. Zach, how can we support you, dude, and your burgeoning rap career that we're keeping on the DL?
You can download my mixtape. No, I don't. There's nothing to really support, Keith, as long as you show up here and you interact with me and just talk some Broncos football. Or you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. That would support me as well. But I think the non-football causes should go to Chad and Bridge the Gap. They deserve it.
Appreciate that, bro. It's been a lot of fun. You guys really helped to grease the wheels so that when our album came out, our record label's like, yo, we did not expect this. You guys were a band no one knew of, and kaboom, like you're pulling numbers that none of our other bands are pulling. And they're like, oh, I guess it helps to already kind of be famous. Not to say we're famous, but in our little realm, we have friends, we have you guys, we have this and that. And so you guys made a big difference in that. The downloads, the YouTube video views, and I don't take that for granted. So that's why at some point I would love to be able to have some kind of a bridge the gap event where people from the MHH community could come. It would be nice to kill those two birds with one stone with the meet and greet, because people are coming from all over the world and the country, but I just don't know logistically if it's in the cards yet. So we shall see. But Zach, if you want to maybe go through our, Kenny here, and then we'll do our rundown. Thank you, bro. He's jumping in with one last super to say, thanks for the great content, fellas. Good night. Really great show.
Thank you,
Thank
Kenny.
you. And Dylan reminded everybody, hey, hit that like button, please. Okay. Phil, what comment, bro? It's probably something I missed. So while Zach's doing the rundown, don't anybody leave. I'm going to do, Zach, a quick perusal of the chat and see if what I missed from Mike and from Phil. But actually, real quick, the Hashwinick, great to see you. It's been a minute since we've seen you in one of the chats. Love it, dude. Great to see you. Thank you, too. Saying, thinking of how Riley Moss is getting attention for being a rare white corner. I've been following the Broncos since the 70s and can't help but think about another white corner / safety, Steve Foley. That's true. Yep, that's absolutely true. But I think when people, because if you go back in time, there were a lot of white corners in the, early ages of the NFL. But I think what most people are focusing on is like the modern era. And really, there's only one that you can point to that has achieved any modicum of notoriety, and that was Jason Sehorn. So that's why the comparisons continue to roll in.
Somewhere Thomas Hall's ears are ringing. He loves talking about old Broncos and old football players. So it's an astute point. But again, I don't really care what color anybody is. If you can do the job, you can do the job. And I do feel like Riley Moss, on his own merit, not on his identity, will be a really good contributor for the Broncos.
Well said.
But I'll go through the rundown, Chad, unless we have anything else.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to just see if I can find one or two of these comments that I think we might have missed.
That was another tremendous episode of the MHH podcast. If you're not following us on Twitter, be sure you're doing so at the MHH pod. You can find the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL. And don't forget about Scott too at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch, we're both rocking it right now. Go to mhhmerch.com and check it out. A lot of cool stuff on there. A lot of Buckham stuff on there with a B. So it's really good stuff. Also on Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Be sure you're liking that page and following that page. If you're on IG, you can catch us at mile_high_huddle. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, be sure you're leaving your football pre-save 5-star review for a chance to win some of that aforementioned swag each and every single month. But if anything, as Dylan says and reminds y'all each and every program, be sure you're subscribing, liking, and sharing this episode and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
So I did misinterpret what Phil was saying. He was saying, what happened to my Dylan comment? So here's what he's saying. He said, I was reading Dylan's article predicting that Baron Browning will get 9 sacks, Simmons will get 8 interceptions, and Alex Singleton will have 130 plus tackles. Who, if anyone, will actually beat one of those predictions in your opinion? So if there's anyone that's going to beat 9 sacks, or Zach beat 8 interceptions that's not these guys, or Singleton with 130 tackles, who is it?
For sacks, it's got to be, if he stays healthy, Randy Gregory. He has double-digit sack potential every year. He's that big of a playmaker. Simmons is a good shout. I think the only other contender for that would be PS2, but I don't think many quarterbacks are going to be throwing his way for him to get 8 picks. And tackles, it's going to be tough to beat Singleton. He's a tackling machine. Say what you want about him in coverage, but he is so good against the run. If there's one player that can maybe come close to that, though, it's going to be our guy that we've been talking about all night, Chad, Drew Sanders.
Well said, well said. And then I found 2 from Mike. These are the only 2 I think we might have missed. He said, I really do like Mims. He's fast. That's the Broncos' second-round wide receiver out of Oklahoma, Marvin Mims. Shifty and finds the open areas of his routes. I just hope he's as durable as he is good. Amen, brother. I couldn't have said it better. Mike also says, I hate to say it, but I think Cortland Sutton got a little too comfortable with losing and still getting paid. Just my opinion. Yeah, and that's a really good point too. And that's why some of this stuff, it's like, you got to clear out the bad juju. And it's not like, you got to either find a way to orchestrate a mighty change of heart in the players that did get too comfortable being losers, or get rid of them. So you either figure out how to crack that nut, or they got to hit the bricks. And I think with the players who have, Zach, already shown high profile levels of production, the Broncos are going to be inclined to try to orchestrate a mighty change of heart. But in some cases, you just got to hit the bricks. Dalton Reisner might be one of those guys. They were just like, nah, goodbye. There are a few other guys, but maybe Sutton did, Zach, get a little too comfortable with losing.
A lot of nuts are going to be cracked this year. That I can tell you. Sutton did get very comfortable and I think very deflated and disenfranchised by the Broncos losing. I don't want to say losing culture, but losing seasons. Not having a top flight offensive mind, not having a top flight quarterback, being injured, losing every year. It's not what he envisioned. He got paid and he kind of took his foot off the gas pedal. It happens. But if he wants to remain on his contracts and on this team for the long term beyond the season, he better revert back to pre-injury form.
My camera is slowing down, and it's not our camera. It's not the computer. It's StreamYard. I got to put in a ticket. I got to complain. I'm getting sick of this stuff. But real quick, guys, before we dip, shout out to these great Super Chat superstars tonight on YouTube: David McElrath, Sam Bam, the Duchess, Michaela Parker, Najal Toffs, Kenny Abeda, Zachary Peterson, the GLP, Gary Palmer, Timmy Shields, Brent P, and I always screw this up, the Hatchwinnick. Much love and respect. Great to see you. And then on Facebook, super supporters: Mike Ronquillo, Phil McLaughlin, Mike Reno, Miguel Santisteban, Doug Raquel, Keith Brugman, and then every single one of you that joined us in the room tonight, contributing to the conversation or just giving us your ear. Much love and respect. We'll see you on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll let you go watch the Nuggets game tonight. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.